we are going to spawn these stars in via code instead of just putting them all on stage. I suppose you could just put them all on the stage, like zoom way out and line up your stars way into the future and do it that way if you wanted to, but we're going to use code to spawn them in. I'm going to actually, so what we need to do is in our project folder, we're going to make yet a new folder. We're going to right click and we're going to create a folder and we're going to call this prefabs. Okay, and this is really neat. Watch what happens to this star game object when I drag it into this folder. When I take this star and I drag it into the folder, it creates a prefabricated game object, and we could actually use code to pull this in. And so this one on stage, if you notice it now, it's got filled in. It's a blue box now. If I select this and hit the check mark, it is no longer going to be rendered during the game. But we have this prefab down here now that we're going to use. So in this script object, in the game script, we're going to create a new slot right here by creating a public slot, and we're going to drag this into it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to call this thing, I like to keep everything alphabetical, but I'm going to keep my prefabs down here. So I'm going to say public game object, and we're going to call it prefab star. Okay, and when I hit save, it will create a new box here to drag our asset from the prefabs folder in. So I need to go back and click this prefab star. There's none there, so let's drag this onto that slot, and so now we have a star. Nothing's going to happen, but we can spawn a star with our code now. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to create a timer. So like every, I don't know, 1 second or 2 seconds or whatever we want, we will spawn one of these prefabs. So let's create a new, let's make this private so it doesn't make another box. So we're going to say private float. It's going to be a decimal that starts counting up. We're going to call this timer for star. Timer star equals 0. So it's going to go 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to say, and then we're going to say, well, then we're going to need, like, how much does it need to get up to? So we're going to say private, private float. We're just going to keep it timer star needed to spawn. So just so you could understand, you could create your own variable names, but I'm trying to, so the star that's needed to spawn, how many seconds? Let's just say 3 seconds for now, okay? And then, well, we'll make it 2 so that when I do this video, they'll come a little quicker. Okay, so right now, these aren't even being used, but in the update happens every single frame. We're gonna kind of make another space, and we're gonna say timer star plus equals time dot delta time. So it's gonna, it's gonna move up every second, or every, through time. The timer star is gonna keep getting increased. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and it's gonna, and it's a great clock. So now we're gonna say if that gets greater than, if timer star gets to greater than or equal to timer star needed to spawn, timer star need, am I spelling things right? Okay, then something's gonna happen. We're gonna reset timer to 0 again. So it's gonna stay consistent, and then we are going to, before we set it to 0, we are going to do something. Now I kind of give myself a little cheat sheet down here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new variable for a vector, vector 3 spawn position. So this is a variable. We're creating a new variable for a spawn position, and we're gonna say new. It's a new vector 3. And we're going to set the x to 10 the y to 0, the z to 0, and then, so we've got this variable we can use. And now, oop, that is not correct. That should say vector 3. Spawn position equals new vector 3. And then we're going to use what's built into Unity, say instantiate, and we're going to refer to this thing right here, prefab star. And then we're going to say, where do we spawn it? And we're going to spawn it at the spawn position that we just created. And we are then going to write, this is, I'm not going to attempt to quarter neon. I'm not going to attempt to explain quarter neon identity right now. And this is what you write. Okay, that was my little cheat sheet down here. And so vector 3, this gives the location, and this basically instantiates the prefab at that location. So the x, y, and z coordinate. Okay, so let's, and then after it gets to this number here, I should probably be consistent, put an F after there. After it gets to that time needed, it's going to reset the time star to 0, and then it'll count again. And so every 2 seconds, it should spawn a star. Let's see if I wrote everything correctly or if I made any errors. So let's zoom out, and we set it at 10. So every 2 seconds, it should spawn a new star. There's one. There they go. Okay, good. And you can see every time we're collecting them, there they are. And so, you know, maybe to make this game more fun, we could put the stars up in the sky, and so you have to jump and get them, and then maybe there's some objects that you got to avoid on the ground, and so we'll have some fun with it. So go ahead and for now, have fun creating a spawnable star, and have fun.